Hi, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing and today I'm going to talk about content marketing and user experience. UX, certainly a really big topic that I can't get through in a sub 10-minute video. So today I'm just going to go over some basic thoughts that I have on it and why it's important and how it relates to content marketing. And in the future I plan on doing more content marketings and on user experience as we go into a little bit more into some more topics that are a little deeper. But user experience, right? The biggest mistake people make when they talk about user experience, will say, well, how good does it look? That's essentially what people think a good UX is. How good is the website designed? How eye-catching is it? How many cool big visuals do I have? Do I have an endless scroll because that's cool and that's in right now? Do I have a carousel that is very eye-popping and moves across and it's interactive and a lot of pop-ups everywhere? The visual appeal of a website is a part of your experience, but it's actually very, very small. What's important when you think about user experience is more some of the words that I have up here. How useful is the website? How usable is it? How valuable is the content that you have on your website? How desirable is it? How accessible is it? Can you find what you want to find? How credible is it? Have you heard of this brand? And how findable is it as well? So all the content that you go to a website for, can you access it easily? Is it easy to navigate without anyone telling you what to do on the website? Can you find what you need to find really, really fast? That's essential when it comes to user experience. But more important than that is the emotions that a good UX can bring out. How does it affect somebody's whole emotional state when they're on your website? That might sound a little reaching, a little dramatic, but it's actually very, very important. If you're talking about somebody taking actions on your website, it's important that you elicit an emotional response. And that might be a very simple one, which is, hey, this is very useful, this is very easy. I can just simply click through here and find the content that I want. That's a simple one, but it's a very important emotion to have on there. And that's what you're trying to achieve through a really good UX. And a good visual design is certainly a part of that. If it's really engrossing, if it's really awesome to look at, that's certainly incredibly valuable. But people will forget about that if it isn't useful, if it isn't accessible, if it isn't creating a good experience as a whole for them to complete whatever task it was that when they came to your website for. So just think about that. Think about all the emotions that goes through people's heads when they're on your website. That's what goes into creating a good user experience. So to relate this a little bit to content marketing, you've heard me say on this video series numerous times, and I'm sure you've heard from Content Marketing Institute and numerous blogs out there and numerous articles how important it is when creating a content marketing strategy to get to know your audience, get to learn your audience as much as possible, as in depth as possible as you can. And this means creating, content marketing mission statement, a value proposition. How are you different from your competitors? But most importantly, creating those 3 to 5 personas that people who you're targeting to come to your website, to come to your brand. And whenever you create anything on the website, any blogs, any articles, videos, infographics, anything, is that relatable to one of your personas? That's what you should be doing. And then you have to cater that content towards what they want. It's not about what you want or what you think is a functional design for what you think is great. It's about how your users interact with your website and what they want to do, because that is more important. And if you don't give them what they want to do, they're either just going to do it on their own through your website, like forget about your fancy carousel, they're just going to go straight to your top navigation and try and find exactly what they need to find, or they're going to go somewhere else where it has a more functional design for them. And this is where a lot of times people get a little bit carried away with design, with visual appeal, and not so much on what the user needs. Okay? And a simple way for you to avoid this is to make sure that you have your UX professional, whoever's designing a website, with the team when they're going over any kind of digital strategy, or with the content marketing team whenever they're doing a workshop for a new customer or for your internal audience, and discovering what those personas are. Your UX professional should be involved every single step of the way, because just like you need that to know what type of content to write, they need to know it to decide what type of content, what type of visuals they need to be putting in order to create the best possible user experience. Okay, because all a good user experience specialist, strategist cares about is the user and what they need, and how can they get them to that as fast as possible, and how can they get them all the information that they need in as simple as possible. Okay? Now, keeping it simple is very, very difficult. You know, one of the old sayings is, I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have enough time. Keeping something simple is very, very difficult. But us in America as a culture love things that are very, very simple. To go on a quick tangent, this isn't always the case. Having a complex remote or a complex system or in some other cultures is actually considered great. People want things to be complicated that they have to work out, not us. As a society right now in the US, we like things very, very simple, and it's very, very difficult to do that. Apple is a perfect example of that. Look at the iPhone, look at the iPad. When they were designing that, it was, well, how many buttons should they have? Obviously, we know the whole thing is touchscreen, but they just have one button at the bottom. Why? Because that's very, very simple. It's very, very easy to use, and everybody understands the function of it. So when Apple started going into Apple TV and looking at their controllers, they tried to make that once again as simple as possible. How many times have we heard, possibly from the generation above us, but myself included, man, this remote is really complicated. Look at all these buttons. Do I really need all of these buttons? It's confusing. It's angry. It's a terrible user experience. Yes, I'm talking about user experience on a remote control. That is a user experience. Apple need to keep it in touch with their brand, which is very, very simple, incredibly user-friendly. And that's exactly what they did with the remote control, and it's what they continue to do with every single product they come out. It's as simple as possible. There's not even directions with most of these things because people understand how to use them because that's how user-friendly they are. And that's a great user experience. That's something that you have to keep top of mind. What do the users want? They want things simple. Make sure you keep it simple. Your website, if you have a very complex website with a lot of content, make sure you make it very easy for them to find that content. Okay? So let's make this even more relatable to content and content marketing. A terrible user experience kills content. All right, I was just reading an article in Content Marketing Institute by Melissa Eggleston, and a lot of things on the next two slides I got from her article. I'll have a link to it in the description here. But we go through all this work to create great content, and we know it's going to live somewhere on our website. And you know, we know that it's reaching one of our personas. We know it's a really great piece of content, maybe multiple pieces of content on one subject. If you have a terrible user experience, how are people even going to be able to find that content and find it in the order that they need it to be? All right, people will be looking around, they can't find it. That's terrible. So that's where user experience comes in. All right, user experience specialists will know exactly how valuable that content is and make sure that the website is set up appropriately for people to find that content as easy as possible. Maybe that means making a customizable homepage where people take some surveys on the very front page, and actually the content then comes to them. All right, then you have a customized page on the homepage that is to everything that they need. All right. So it's just important to realize that when you're creating a content marketing strategy, to have your UX person involved in that. They need to know why it's important. They need to know everything about the customer that you do. Okay? So to kind of summarize everything, before I go into future topics on user experience, is to understand that you can't just have a UX team. This again comes from Melissa Eggleston in the article. You have to have, your entire company has to have a UX mindset. All right, everybody should be thinking about user experience. Okay, you can't be just thinking as an individual team or as an individual contributor. The entire company must adopt user experience as something they have to do. Everything they do, how is this affecting the user experience? All right, down to as simple as we're going to change our homepage image. All right, how does that affect user experience? Okay, we're going to create a new topic. How does that affect user experience? All right, we're going to, especially if you're doing a huge redesign and your old site was actually set up very well for UX, does the new site ruin that? Does it make it more difficult? Don't sacrifice, visual appeal, looks for user experience. All right, some of the most effective websites I've ever seen at channeling people to the information they need are incredibly simple and incredibly basic and aren't necessarily as visual appealing as some other ones. All right, so when you sit there, don't think yourself as an individual. Think, be just like Eurozone here and be like, I play for the United States of America. All right, make sure that your entire team works together and adopts a UX mindset. All right, thank you for listening. Expect many more topics on user experience in the future. Until then, I will talk to you next week.